Madam Chair, you do have a quorum, so you can start at any time.
Oh, thanks, David. Well, then let's get started for the February the 25th, 2021 Indiana Housing Community Development Authority Board meeting. And David, you did indicate we do have a quorum, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So our first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the January 28th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Perfect, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is Community Services Department, and that is the Emergency Solution Grant CARES Act, additional hub allocation, and Stellar Operation Funding, or Shelter, excuse me. I've got Stellar on my mind, Jake. Shelter Operations Funding Request, and we have Kylene Welling here to present. Thank you, Kylene.
Thank you. Good morning, board.
Morning.
I'm here with you today to request approval of 4 additional sub-awards under the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act award. This was an additional, an award of almost $32 million that came to the state of Indiana last year as a response to the COVID crisis. There are 4 main activities that subrecipients can undertake with ESG CV dollars. Those are homelessness prevention, which is a type of rental assistance, rapid rehousing, which is another type of rental assistance. They can use the dollars for shelter operational costs and also for street outreach to those experiencing homelessness that are in encampments around the state. IHCDA has implemented a rolling application for these dollars as communities and partners see what their needs are. Each month there is a deadline by which they can apply to request additional or new funds for programs. The 4 awards I am presenting to you today came in our January round that closed at the end of January, and we did receive 4 additional requests at the time. Our last rolling round for applications will actually be, the due date is March 5th. So that will be the last round we will have for a while. We need to reassess and take a look at how people's expenditures are going. They are allowed to request funds at this time for rapid rehousing, shelter operations, or street outreach. Those can be new awards or additional funds to existing awards. Currently, the homelessness prevention categories only our existing regional partners through our rental assistance program are allowed to request additional funds for that. For this round, if you look at Table A, we did have one of our regional hubs that's doing homelessness prevention with us request additional funds. That is for Region 1A, which is Lake County. And then we had 3 shelter operation award requests, 2 of which were new awards to YWCA of North Central Indiana and Catalyst Rescue Mission. And then our existing subrecipient Lafayette Transitional Housing Center requested additional funds for shelter operations. There is included an Exhibit A, which is a map to show you where these regions are. Region 2A is St. Joseph County. Region 4 is the Lafayette area. And Region 13 is South Central Indiana, and Catalyst is located in Jeffersonville. Are there any questions for me about these 4 sub awards?
Any questions for Kylene, board? And you have 2 separate motions, don't you, Kylene?
Yes, I will read one for the homelessness prevention award to the COC of Northwest Indiana, and then the other one will be for the 3 shelter operation awards.
All right, so we will do 2 separate resolutions.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, perfect. If there's no questions from the board, we are ready for your first resolution, Kylene.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation of Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act funding in an amount not to exceed $250,000 for homelessness prevention to the organization set forth in Table B as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
A motion for approval.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Kylie, we're ready for your second resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation of the Emergency Solutions Grant CARES Act funding in an aggregate amount not to exceed $259,687 for shelter operations to the organization set forth in Table C as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Kylie.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda under the Finance Department is Habitat for Humanity of Indiana's Collateralized Deficiency Guarantee. That sounds interesting. Rich Harcourt will be presenting for us. Thank you, Rich.
Good morning, board. Thank you. And as you noted, Lieutenant Governor, it is a bit of a unique request, but the purpose of this memo is to request approval of a $1 million collateralized deficiency guarantee in the support of a $3.5 million sale of single-family non-interest-bearing loans from Habitat of Humanity to Old National Bank. So I think most of you know what Habitat of Humanity is, but they are a non-for-profit ecumenical Christian housing ministry that seeks to provide safe and decent housing to people around the world. In Indiana, they're in 75 counties, operating out of 52 affiliates, and have in the past built over 6,500 homes. Fiscal year 2020 was a perfect storm for Habitat. They got the COVID-19 pandemic caused problems with their volunteer base in terms of building new homes and social distancing. The changes in the tax law around charitable deductions slowed the flow of charitable dollars going into their housing efforts. And then, of course, the rising cost of construction that we've talked about here has also driven up the cost of housing. So as part and process of what they're trying to do, they approached IHCDA about possibly purchasing $1 million worth of their loan portfolio to provide liquidity. So when Habitat helps a homeowner into a home, they follow up by making a loan to that homeowner that is a non-interest bearing loan, considered to be a whole loan, meaning that it's not a mortgage-backed security. It doesn't have a government guarantee behind it. And they support that homeowner in that process with that 0% interest loan, and they hold that in their portfolio. So what Habitat had to ask us to do would be to purchase $1 million worth of those loans to provide liquidity into their housing operation. And we looked at that and we suggested a different way to do it. We suggested that perhaps they could sell those loans to a lender, to a commercial bank that needed ERA credit. And then in doing so, we would provide $1 million worth of support in the way of a deficiency guarantee. And so that's what's happened. Old National Bank has agreed to buy. The memo says $3.5 million worth of loans, but in the closing statement, that number is going to be $3.8 million worth of loans from Habitat of Humanity or its affiliates. And then we are going to provide a collateralized deficiency guarantee, meaning that we'll put $1 million on deposit in Old National Bank. They will hold that as collateral against the deficiency guarantee. So the way it works is that if as these loans continue to amortize, if one of those loans goes into default, Old National goes back to Habitat and requires them to either pay the loan off or to substitute another loan for the one that's in default. If that doesn't happen, And then Old National is forced to go to foreclosure on that loan. Once a deficiency is established, then they can turn to our $1 million collateralized deficiency guarantee and collect under that guarantee. So we think it's really a pretty good transaction. It allows us to continue to help homeowners that we wouldn't really reach in our bond resolution or our TBA markets, because we do loans that are conforming loans that can be turned into mortgage-backed securities. So it allows us to help support a borrower that we wouldn't reach in our quest to help stabilize housing in Indiana. It also means that we're not buying whole loans. So, we are a shop that buys, originates, and owns mortgage-backed securities, loans that have government guarantees. We used to be a whole loan lender. We're not. We have one whole loan, left in our portfolio to date. And so it means we don't have to hold whole loans. It means we don't have to service those loans. Our servicer, U.S. Bank, wouldn't service a whole loan. It also means that in the event of a foreclosure, in the event that there's a call on a loan and Habitat doesn't substitute a loan, it means that we're not the entity doing the foreclosure. We're not taking that borrower to court in foreclosure, and that's Old National's challenge to do. And it also means that we're not servicing those loans. So that's the transaction. We have. We're asking to put $1 million on deposit to secure the guarantee. As that portfolio amortizes over time, we're allowed to make calls on Old National to release collateral back to us, so we won't have that $1 million out there for the entire life of the loans. But I'll stop there and I'll take questions. I'm excited about it. I think this is a good leveraging. This is a 3.8 to 1 leveraging of our resources to help folks. So I'm a little excited about what we're doing here. I'll stop though and take questions.
Questions for Rich?
Rich, it's June. Is the deposit non-interest bearing?
Yeah, June, it is, and it helped with a discount purchase rate. So Old National is buying these loans, these non-interest bearing loans without any service premium associated with it for a 2.5% discount. And part of that purchase price was our agreeing to put that $1 million in as a non-interest bearing deposit.
Got it.
Additional questions for Rich? Rich, I guess we're ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve providing $1 million collateralized deficiency guarantee to Old National Bank in the support of a Habitat for Humanity of Indiana loan purchase and sale agreement as set forth in the attached loan purchase and sale agreement as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution. Motion for approval.
Mark Pascarella, approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, board.
Our next item on our agenda is under real estate development is our home innovation round, La Casa of Goshen, Inc., Phase 1. And we have Samantha Spergel here to present. Good morning, Samantha. And I think you'll end up with 2 resolutions that we will be voting on. So we're ready for your presentation. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. To quickly provide some background on this, back in October of 2019, IHCDA released a request for proposal to select up to 3 eligible nonprofits who proposed an innovative affordable housing project to target an unmet need and to target single-family homeownership in their respective communities. The 3 respondents that were selected were required to undergo 4 months of training through both IHCDA and our TA provider, TDA, who's also HUD's home TA provider. Each team has successfully completed the trainings, the 3 teams being La Casa of Goshen Incorporated, Housing Opportunities, and Habitat for Humanity of Greater Indianapolis. And now each of these 3 teams are eligible to apply for up to $2 million of home funding through our Home Investment Partnerships Program grant to support construction activities for their development. And IHCDA is allowing each team to submit phased applications. La Casa, again, was one of those 3 teams. Previously, La Casa was awarded $30,000 through the Community Housing Development Organization, or CHODO Pre-Development Loan Fund, to assist with site due diligence as they determined which sites were appropriate for their first phase. So with this application, IHCDA does accept these applications on a rolling basis until the $2 million set aside for each team has been awarded or the project is completed, whichever happens first. Each project must submit an application, and they have their own application policy, own application form, and a pro forma, which allows us to underwrite not just the development subsidy itself, but also the potential buyer as required under the home regulations. And IHCDA, through the underwriting, ensures that they meet all underwriting standards, lending standards, and are meeting all threshold requirements. With this, IHCDA also allows these organizations to apply for CHODO certification and operating funds in conjunction with a request for CHODO operating funds not to exceed $50,000 in a given program year. Those applications are also reviewed by staff for completeness and to determine if all federal requirements are met. So with this, La Casa successfully submitted an application both for their construction and for their operating supplemental funding on January 19th of 2021. I do want to note La Casa has also been undergoing individualized technical assistance for the last 6 or 7 months, and I've been meeting with their team monthly just to ensure that we are able to move forward on this first phase, and want to thank them for their effort. IHCDA staff reviewed the application for completeness and determined that all requirements were met, and we were also able to certify them as a CHODO. So their project, La Casa is requesting $500,000 for the construction of 5 units for homeownership in Goshen, Indiana, as part of their phase 1. This development includes the new construction of 3 single-family, 3-bedroom houses. Those 3 will be modular houses, very much inspired and utilizing the skills they learned through our workforce housing modular program. And then 2 units will be single-family, 4-bedroom homes, which will be stick-built. 2 of the sites that La Casa has been able to utilize were actually donated by the Goshen Redevelopment Commission and actually had been part of IHCDA's blight elimination program. So all units will be sold to households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income, which for a family of 4 in Elkhart County is around $56,000. All families that are interested in purchasing the units will be engaged through La Casa's financial empowerment team. And uniquely, La Casa has actually created a specific position under this team for this initiative. And this counselor will work hand in hand with the potential buyers and households with pre-purchase and post-purchase counseling, and provide those families with assistance with budgeting, mortgage financing, and home maintenance. And then they will lastly create an individualized action plan. So I do want to very quickly address how the home funding will be utilized with the home regulations under the home buyer program. It's a little bit tricky, but in short, IHCDA's investment, our funding toward the actual construction of the grant to La Casa goes toward addressing what we call the appraisal gap. So when we look at the total development cost for a particular unit, in this case, they do vary, but approximately $280,000 to be able to construct a single family home in Goshen. The market value and sales price creates a gap in which that development subsidy is necessary to actually complete the construction of the project. La Casa is estimating a market value and appraisal of around $170,000 for these units. Within that, we also have to address what's called the affordability gap. That is the amount gap created for a family, a household, again, at 80% or lower of the area median income, that is created from what they can actually afford. And trying to find some of these buyers sometimes can be very tricky to ensure that they can qualify for a first mortgage. And so we do see these gaps which necessitate a need for a buyer assistance. And so upon sale of the actual unit, that sales price goes toward paying the actual construction costs to be able to actually have the home built, and some goes toward the buyer's subsidy. IHCDA has a cap of $40,000. The majority of these units will be under $10,000 Each unit does have to be individually underwritten, as does each buyer. And so those final amounts will be calculated upon sale of the unit. And then if there are any net proceeds from the sale of the house, there are really two different avenues that those proceeds can take. The first being what is called program income. So those funds revert to IHCDA, and we have the ability to revolve them to other home eligible projects. The second avenue is what is called CHOTO proceeds. Since La Casa is now certified as a CHOTO under this specific award, La Casa has the opportunity to essentially revolve those funds. IHCDA will monitor the use of those funds for up to 1 year after project completion, but those funds can essentially revolve and go toward other eligible home buyer or rental projects. And so with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions.
Board, any questions for Samantha? I think we're ready for your resolution. Samantha, your first resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following. Resolve that the board approve awarding home funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $500,000 to La Casa of Goshen Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion for approval.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, board. Samantha, we're ready for your second resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding home CHOTO operating supplement funding in the form of a grant in amount not to exceed $50,000 to La Casa of Goshen Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mark Pascarella, so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Recommendations for the 2021 Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program. And Alan Rakowski will be making that presentation. Welcome, Alan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, members of the board. As mentioned here today to present the 2021 tax credit recommendations. So with that, we will jump right in. So to begin, just a summary of the amount of tax credits that we have. The 2021 per capita credits are estimated to be just under 19 million. We had 69,950 of credits last year that we're carrying forward into this year. So the total ceiling for this year's round is 19,004,316. And just to note that we're using the 2020 population by the IRS. Once we get the 2021 figure, this amount will go up slightly, but that's the amount that we're working with right now. So a summary of the round, we received 51 applications. The total request amount was just over 51 million. 800,000 requested to the home program. Development fund requests were 5.7 million. And housing trust fund, 2,650,000. Today, we are recommending 19 projects for funding. The total amount of credits being recommended is 19,004,316. Not recommending any home funding, and recommending development fund in the amount of 1.4 million and housing trust fund in the amount of 1.9 million. So I want to go through the process to highlight the steps we took to get to today. So at the end of last year's round, if you recall, the last tax credit round announcements were November of 2019. So after that announcement, we began debriefing with developers, particularly those that did not get awards, meeting with them, discussing their projects, helping them determine if they wanted to reapply in the next year's round. Of course, at the beginning of last year, things were put on hold a little bit when we were into the pandemic in March. We began having on our weekly calls with tax credit partners discussions. One of the discussions we had in our weekly call was what we should do about the 2021 tax credit round. So originally it was scheduled to start on July 27th of 2020. After having discussions and putting out surveys, we determined it would be appropriate to push that back a few months just to give the development community a little bit more time to work through the items that they would need to work through to put together applications. So did postpone a round to September 18th of last year. So with that date being set in April, we began the process. 1 month prior to the application due date is when we had to have notices of intent, so we know how many projects we would expect to come in. Also, capital needs assessments for projects were due, so we could begin doing some of that work ahead of time. As I mentioned, applications are due as September 18th, and once we had the applications, we began our process to review them. So that included threshold review, underwriting review, market study, cost analysis, and scoring to go through our entire process to get to a point where we could recommend projects today. Also wanted to note that in October, we issued a memo to the applicants, as we do every year, giving them key dates so that they would know when they can expect to hear from us on the different reviews that we were doing, and also to confirm when we would be taking these to the board of directors. We notified the highest elected officials, which we are required to do under the program, to let them know that we have received projects in their communities, just to make them aware of that. Then we began our review as a team. December 8th is when we sent out letters after we had a chance to meet as a group to determine what items were not meeting threshold or we had clarification on. So we gave the developers 2 weeks to respond to those. And then the last step in the process is when we issue preliminary score sheets. So we issue score sheets to show developers how we are scoring a project in comparison to their own self-score. It gives them an opportunity to point out if there's something that we didn't see. They're not allowed to submit new information, but it's just a way for us to ensure that we didn't miss something, that we took everything into consideration that was submitted to us. I do want to acknowledge the tax credit team. You can see it's a big effort, a lot of people involved. I do want to mention each of these individuals because they played a key role. Jerry Bain, our Director of Real Estate Lending. Katie Hall, Real Estate Coordinator. Ryan Hamlet, Placemaking and Environmental Review Manager. Megan Heber, who's a Real Estate Production Analyst. Holly Lester, our other Real Estate Production Analyst. Peter Nelson, Senior Tax Credit Specialist. Chris Nevels, Home and CDBG Manager. Doug Newport, Design and Construction Review Analyst. Matt Rayburn, Deputy Executive Director, Chief Real Estate Development Officer. Susan Shepard was the Real Estate Investment Underwriter, and then Samantha Spurgle, Director of Real Estate Strategic Initiatives and Engagement. So again, it was a team effort. It was a little bit different this year just because we were working mostly remote, but everyone came together, I think, did an outstanding job to adjust how we normally do things and still be able to accomplish everything we set out to do. So with that, I'll begin the 2021 rental housing tax credit recommendations. The first project on our list is Broadway Homes. This project will be in Gary. It was one of the highest scoring projects, 116.5. Tax credit amount is 1.2 million. It'll have 46 units. Family designation, new construction. The developer is MVAH Development LLC, and a set aside being funded out of his large city. Second project is City View Homes. This project will be in Muncie. This one actually was the highest scoring application, 116.66. Tax credit amount is $1,025,000. It'll have 48 units, family designation, new construction, same developer as the first one, MVAH Development LLC, and this one's being funded out of the small city set aside. Next is Compass on Washington. This project will be in Indianapolis. It's scored a 101.5, 1.2 million in tax credits. Housing Trust Fund recommendation is 900,000. It'll have 36 units. This is one of our supportive housing projects that went through the Institute. It'll be new construction undertaken by Englewood Community Development Corporation, and it's being funded out of the Housing First set aside. Next is Emmy June Cove. This project will be in Chandler at scored a 111.5, requesting 660,553 in tax credits. Development fund requested 400,000. It'll have 40 units with a family designation, new construction, Developer is Keller Development, and this one is being funded out of the general set aside. Next is Founders Square. This project will be in Speedway. It was also one of our highest scoring projects at 116. The request is 1.2 million in tax credits. It'll have 60 units. It'll be designation will be age restricted. New construction with T&H Investment Properties LLC as a developer, and it's being funded out of the rural set aside. Garfield Parkside Townhomes is the next one. This one will also be, or will be in Indianapolis. Score is 113.97, 1.1 million in tax credits. It'll have 47 units. Family designation, it'll be new construction. The developer, again, is T&H Investment Properties LLC, and this project's being funded out of the community integration set aside. Next is Hannah Commons. This project will be in Indianapolis. It scored an 88.5. Tax credit amount 1.2 million, 1 million in housing trust fund. It'll have 54 units. This is our other supportive housing project being recommended. It went through the Institute. New construction is the type. Up Development LLC will be the developer, and it's being funded out of the Housing First set aside. Jacobsville 1 Apartments Rehab project is in Evansville. It scored a 111.95, 579 for 23 in tax credits. It'll have 36 units. Family designation as both new construction and rehab as part of the project. Gratis Development LLC is a developer and being funded out of a large city set aside. Next is Corbin Creek. The project will be in Greenfield. It scored 110. Tax credit amount is 834,500. 48 units. Family designation. It'll also be new construction. Developer, our Keller Development Incorporated will be the developer, and then it's being funded out of the workforce housing set aside. Madison Lofts will be in Fortville. It scored 109. The tax credit request is 1 million. It'll have 58 units with a family designation, new construction. MVAH Development LLC will be the developer, and this one is being funded out of the Stellar Community Designation set aside. New Life Manor is next. It is in Indianapolis currently. It'll be a rehab. It scored 109. Tax credits is 637,212. 48 units of age restricted designation. John H. Bonner Community Center is a developer, and it's being funded out of our preservation set aside. Pebble Village Townhomes is the next one. It'll be in Noblesville. Scored a 107, just under 1.2 million in credits. It'll have 60 units with a family designation. New construction, Woda Cooper Development Incorporated is the developer, and this also is being funded out of the workforce housing set aside. Prominence Commons, a project in Portage. It scored a 106.5, tax credit amount of 1,055,906. Also a development fund loan, 500,000. It'll have 50 units. It's currently has a supportive housing component. It'll be new construction and rehab. Developers Housing Opportunities Incorporated, and being funded out of the preservation set aside. Retreat at the Switchyard is the next one. It'll be in Bloomington. Scored a 110, 1.2 million in tax credits. It'll have 48 units with a family designation. New construction, Real America Development LLC will be the developer, and this one is being funded out of the community integration set aside. Riverbend Flats will be in Muncie. It scored 112.5. It has 1,031,396 in tax credits. It'll be a 60 unit development, family designation, new construction. TWG Development LLC is a developer, and it is being funded out of the small city set aside. Next, we have Riverside Commons. This one is 2 sites, both it's in Plymouth and La Paz. It scored a 95.83. Tax credits at 1.2 million, development fund 500,000. It'll have 48 units, a family designation, new construction. Developers Culver Sandhill Farm LLC, and this one is the other being funded on the Stellar Community Designation set aside. Seymour Lofts will be in Seymour. Score was 109.25. It has a request of 843,770. 50 units, family designation with new construction. The developer is TWG Development LLC, and this one is being funded out of the qualified not-for-profit set aside. All right, next is St. Lucas Lofts, will be in Indianapolis. Score 114, tax credits just over 1 million, 48 units, new construction with a family designation. Englewood Community Development Corporation is a developer, and this one is being funded out of the qualified not-for-profit set aside. And our last project is West Baden Lofts. That'll be in West Baden Springs, score of a 111.5. Tax credits at 752, 556. It'll have 44 units with a family designation, new construction, and TWG Development LLC is a developer and being funded out of the rural set aside. So those are our 19 projects being recommended. Here you have a map just to show the distribution around the state. So you can see some projects in each region. If you look at north, south, and central, highest concentration in the central, which is what we usually see, but just an opportunity to see how this looks across the state based on the recommendations we're making today. So with that, I will pause and take any questions that the board may have.
Questions for Alan? Alan, I believe we're ready for your resolution.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the following: an aggregate award of LIHTC in the amount of $19,004,316, an aggregate amount of development fund in the amount of $1,400,000, and an aggregate award of housing trust fund in the amount of $1,900,000 to the 19 developments listed in Table A as more particularly identified in the development summary sheets as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Alan.
All right, thank you, board.
And now our next item on our agenda is our executive director's update. Welcome, Jacob Sype.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of our board. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to give you an update for February. Just a couple items here. As I briefed you last month, Indiana is receiving $448 million to use for an emergency rental assistance program from the U.S. Department of Treasury. IHCDA will be administering $368 million of those dollars, and the remaining $80 million will be split among 6 local municipalities that are receiving a direct allocation as well. On Monday of this week, the U.S. Department of Treasury finally released a revised frequently asked questions that provided us with additional guidance for the program. And we are currently planning to begin accepting applications next week. Our plan is to notify those that have registered to receive updates from our renters and our landlords who have also participated in our previous rental assistance programs as well. We also next week will be releasing a marketing and communications toolkit with that. We also have a communications plan in place ready to go as well. And the application portal is going to be available just like it was at our last rental assistance programs at indianahousingnow.org. And just real briefly about the program and the eligibility. Eligible households, which will be at 80% of the area median income, and that will be up to 12 months of assistance. And some of those will include rent, forward-facing rent and rental arrears, plus utilities and home energy and internet arrearages. So that'll be up to 12 months of assistance that we'll be able to provide for rent and utilities. So we're excited to open this application up hopefully next week is our plan. So the Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute was also just had our first session. And as you had just approved on the board meeting, That 2021 Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute is creating a pipeline of future developments that will be eligible once they complete the institute to apply for tax credits in future rounds. The teams will establish affordable housing plans that will have access to supportive housings for individuals with disabilities, as well as individuals that are at risk or experiencing homelessness. This year's teams are from Fort Wayne, Gary, Portage, South Bend, Bloomington, and Indianapolis. And we're excited to have these teams participate and look forward to working with them as they continue to develop their concepts and their designs and get into the for future permanent supportive housing for IHCDA to provide capital funding for them. A quick update on our CARES Act funding, and primarily too, as it relates to rental assistance. We have closed out our Coronavirus Relief Fund's rental assistance program that we launched back in July of last year. If you remember, Governor Holcomb provided initially $25 million for us to launch that program. The final numbers on that program ended at $49,146,106. We assisted 25,198 renter households across our state in 91 counties. The average amount of assistance that we provided was $1,950. We have also had a program with our Emergency Solutions Grant, which, thanks to the board, allocated additional dollars to some not-for-profits to continue to address some of our homeless challenges across our state. But with the ESG rental assistance program, we had committed $8.85 million, and those are ongoing, so those numbers will continue to rise because those are monthly payments that we'll continue to make. But we've assisted 2,116 rental households with that program as well. Also in the month of February, really excited that we launched, release, I should say, the winter issue of IHCDA, the magazine. If you haven't had a chance to open it up and check it out, it really is a great example of all of the work that is being done across our state with all of IHCDA's partners. And I'm really proud of the stories and the articles that are in there. And a special thank you to everyone who contributed to the magazine for our winter edition. There's just some really powerful stories there, and really just some heartwarming, great work that's being done across our state to with our partners. And so it's really, I'm really proud of the work that was done and how we were able to tell all of the great work with our partners. So we just wrapped up the 2021 QAP, thanks to the boards just approving those tax credit awards. And now we're off to the next QAP. And we just issued the second draft of the 2022 QAP on Wednesday of this week, February 24th. As we put that second draft out, we actually, as Alan mentioned, we have a very thoughtful and comprehensive process that we use to ensure that we are receiving public input on the qualified allocation plan and the priorities that we set for our state and how we allocate those resources. So we are expecting to have a public hearing scheduled for the March 4th based on the second draft. And then our goal is to get to IHCA's Board of Directors a recommendation to finalize the qualified allocation plan for 2022 at our March board meeting, with the goal of having applications due on July 26th. And hopefully we can get back to that normal allocation round. Unfortunately, we had to delay last year. But we are shooting for a July 26th application deadline. But that's also going to ensure that we have to get this to our board in March, so for your approval. Speaking of March, the next board meeting is March 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we anticipate that to be another virtual meeting as well. So with that, Madam Chair, that's my update for IHCA's board.
Wonderful. Any questions for Jade? Well, thank you, Jade. Is there any further business to come before the board this morning? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Have a great day, board. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Now I gotta figure out how to get out of here.